Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being on time to our event. We really appreciate it, but we have a bunch of folks still stuck in the security control, waiting to get in, so we are going to postpone the start of the event by about 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, back by popular demand following the smashing success of the first edition back in 2023, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of the National Lab Research Slam. When he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics last year, Jeff Hinton was pressed by the New York Times to explain his research in simple terms. And he quoted Richard Feynman, who, in similar circumstances, apparently replied, "Listen, buddy, if I could explain it in a couple of minutes, it would not be worth the Nobel Prize." Well, the 17 finalists today may not have been awarded the Nobel Prize just yet, but they did take on the challenge of sharing the highlights of their research with you in just 3 minutes. And these 17 early career researchers represent, as you can guess, the 17 national labs of the DOE, the US Department of Energy. And this year again, I will have the honor of introducing them to you, but especially I had the privilege of training them on structure, slide, and delivery. My mission, which I have chosen to accept, was to make it an impossible task for the jury to decide who is the better speaker today. Before I tell you more about it, however, please join me in thanking the House Science and National Labs Caucus and the Senate National Lab Caucus for hosting us today. "17 national labs of the DOE, 17 finalists spread over 4 categories, 1 award per category, attributed by a sample of n equals 5 judges. In the middle, we are honored to have the Deputy Undersecretary for Counterterrorism and Counterproliferation, who is also Associate Administrator of the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, Dr. Wendin Smith. Seated to her right, to your right as well, is the Acting Director of the Office of Science at the US Department of Energy, Dr. Harriet Kung. She came with her fan club, apparently. On the left, the Vice President for Research and Innovation at the University of California Office of President, and also the President of AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, Dr. Teresa Maldonado. The judge on your far right is Executive Officer at the National Academy of Engineering, Dr. Al Romig. And the one on your far left is Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Lockheed Martin, and also the former director of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, Dr. Steve Walker. You know, my own background is in scientific discovery. But if I were a finalist today, I would rather be in the environment category because the odds of winning would be twice as high. Thank goodness for the People's Choice awarded by the audience. And this means you here in the Congressional auditorium, but also you out there watching this event remotely. For all 5 awards, the criteria are structure, slide, and delivery. Structure, Does the talk make you care? Does it clarify the researcher's contribution? Does it convey a message? Slide. Does it illustrate this message visually, or does it, heaven forbid, distract you from what the speaker is saying? Delivery. Do the words, the voice, the body language contribute to engaging the audience? In a nutshell, do you get the point? Clearly, effortlessly, and pleasantly. You tell us at the end by scanning a QR code that I'm going to share with you eventually. Until then, however, how about you use your smartphones to take pictures and share them widely on social media using these two hashtags. I hope you still have your student reflexes of writing things down fast before the teacher erases the board or moves on to the next slide, because we need to move to the first category of 3-minute presentation, and that would be national security. National lab researchers ensure, including the 4 that you see on the screen, of course, ensure the safety, security, and reliability of the nation's nuclear deterrent and address emerging threats to geopolitical stability. How about a word of encouragement from their respective congressional representatives?
Nathan Bakeland from NREL in Golden, Colorado, on his selection as a National Lab Research Slam finalist. I wish him luck in his presentation, and I know that he's going to continue to make us proud.
Hello, this is Congressman Bill Foster, Congress's only PhD physicist and proud representative of Argonne National Laboratory in Illinois' 11th District. I want to wish the best of luck to Dr. Bethany Dean Kirsten from Argonne as she competes in her second National Lab Research Slam.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Teresa Legerfer Hernandez from New Mexico's 3rd District. I'm here to congratulate Nueva Mexicana, Dr. Olivia Pimentel from Los Alamos National Laboratory on her selection as a National Lab Research Slam finalist. The brilliance of her science may save lives and limbs from the scourge of diabetes. 13% of New Mexicans and 38.4 million Americans suffer from diabetes. Thank you for your research into this disease.
This is Latifah Simon, Congresswoman for California's 12th District. I am so excited to extend my office's congratulations to Dr. Vasquez for making it to the Slam finals. We are not only so proud, we're encouraged. Representing a district with some of the most brilliant scientists, one of the most amazing research facilities and public universities, we couldn't be prouder. Go get them, Dr. Vasquez.
Let's dive right in with our first speaker, who fittingly used to be an elite springboard diver, while he competed in the 2021 Diving World Cup in Japan. How about that, huh? So, members of the jury, you will remember for this specific talk to multiply the score you give by the degree of difficulty of the dive, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, Dr. Nathan Bakeland.
What if one morning you woke up and nothing turned on? No light, no hot shower, no coffee, no internet. Our daily lives completely depend on electricity, yet we rarely think about how it gets to us until something goes wrong. For decades, our electricity has come from large traditional power plants, running on steady energy sources like coal and gas. And these plants don't just generate power, they also form the frequency and voltage of our grid, which powers your house at 60 Hertz and 120 volts. They are the backbone of our electricity system, and we call them grid-forming power plants. But now, we see a shift towards renewable energy sources, like wind and solar. And to connect these sources to the grid, we use an inverter, which is a box of electronics and software that converts this volatile renewable energy into usable electricity. However, unlike traditional power plants, most inverters don't form the frequency and voltage. They simply follow the existing grid. In other words, most inverters don't naturally provide stability to the grid, and that is a huge problem. Why is that? Well, imagine a normal bike that sets the pace and the direction, similar to how grid-forming power plants set the frequency and voltage in the grid. Now imagine a tag-along bike that latches onto and follows the main bike, similar to how grid-following inverters behave in the grid. But what do you think will happen when we keep adding more and more tag-along bikes? The bike becomes unstable, and if we remove the main bike, the whole system collapses. And that's exactly the risk we face as we replace these traditional power plants with grid-following inverters. So, if we want a reliable grid powered by renewables, we need inverters that don't just follow but form the grid, like traditional power plants. And this is where my research comes in. I design grid-forming inverters that behave just like traditional power plants. And together with my colleagues at NREL, we recently patented a breakthrough method that I invented that we can integrate in these inverters to make them more robust, even when the grid is wobbly. Basically, I designed stabilizers for the bike so that it doesn't collapse. And this is great news. By developing grid-forming technologies today, we are making sure that no matter how much the grid evolves, our electricity remains as affordable and reliable as ever. And you will never have to wonder if you'll have your coffee in the morning.
The world could certainly use stabilizers, that's for sure, and not just for the electric grid. Before we continue with our finalists, let me introduce to you Congressman Bill Foster. Congressman Foster represents Illinois' 11th district and is the only PhD-level physicist in the US Congress. Yeah! With a PhD from Harvard University and over 2 decades of experience as a high-energy physicist at Fermilab, Dr. Foster brings a unique perspective to Congress. He represents 2 DOE national labs, Argonne and Fermilab, and he is a strong advocate of investment in federal research and development. Congressman Foster.
Well, thank you so much. And I will be brief, partly because we have committee votes coming up in a moment. We just finished votes on the floor and coming here. But I just want to say that, despite the obvious conflict of interest of representing 2 national labs in my congressional district, I guess I should be very happy that I am not on the judges panel here, which I presume that's up front, which I would not be a safe vote for anyone, but either Argonne or Fermilab. But, I had the honor of meeting most all of the SLAM finalists in my office, and it was, my staff has learned that when I feel really grumpy about this job, one of the ways to cheer me up is to get me in front of young scientists because I just remember what it felt like to be, young and full of ideas and ready to change the world, and it was great to see that spirit again. And boy, I had a lot of questions. I think that we had 2 minutes for each one of the SLAM people to present their micro SLAM to me, and I had like about 2 hours of questions for each one. But it was, like I say, just a delight. And I think some of you with some seniority on here may also be familiar with my wife, who, like me, is a physicist, who was once upon a time Harriet's boss, if I remember properly. Boss's boss. Yeah, she was second in command of the Office of Science when she left to work on my campaign for the U.S. Congress. And so, it's one thing I want to talk to you about when you're contemplating jobs in the lab. Don't be afraid to move around a little bit. It's actually really one of the valuable things about the national labs is when they get threaded together by people that have had career multiple places. When I was in a single-purpose lab, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity to move around a lot, but the multi-purpose labs provide incredible opportunities for your career to go in wonderful directions. And so I just wanted to thank you all for supporting the enthusiasm in a really tough time. And I don't want to lie to you and tell you that everything's going to be okay, but we'll see. And we will be doing everything we can to make sure that we don't, kill the goose that lay the golden eggs. Anyway, I don't want to even talk about that. You all understand. But it's just really great to see you. And congratulations and best wishes to all of the SLAM contestants. Thank you. And here is my co-chair of the National Labs Caucus. Oh no, now I'm gonna step all over your thing.
If you prefer to introduce him yourself, go ahead and do my
I'm happy
job.
to. This is, it's also conflicted, I must say, that he is not neutral among the national labs. He is the congressman for Oak Ridge, and is not ashamed of it, but is an enthusiast for all of the national labs. And when I was busy chairing the National Labs Caucus, traveling around, there was no more enthusiastic participant in that. And so I just want to say, Chuck Fleischman, if all Republicans were like you, the world would be a better place. Thank you.
Right back at you on the Democrats. See, we can work together. Good to see you. Would you like to say a few words about me?
Would you like me to say a few words about you?
Oh, absolutely. It's good to see everybody.
Congressman Chuck Fleischman represents Tennessee's 3rd District. In the 119th Congress, he serves as chairman of the House Energy and Water Appropriations Subcommittee, where he's leading efforts to fund federal agencies and programs responsible for our national labs, nuclear security, and energy independence. His district is home to, can you guess, Oak Ridge National
Oak Ridge.
Lab.
Yes, indeed.
Congressman Fleischman.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all this afternoon. I guess it's evening by now. I am Chuck Fleischman. I'm a little bit delayed because I have just come from the House floor. We had a 3-vote series. I'm so glad that you got to hear from my co-chair, Bill Foster. Bill Foster and I work on a lot of things together. He's the real deal. He knows the science. He's so intellectually honest. And for years, we've worked together. We are from different parties, from different parts of the world, although I am fond of the Argonne and Fermi labs. Why? Because I did my undergraduate work at the University of Illinois. And then I ended up at the ripe old age of 20 in a place called Knoxville, Tennessee. And I thought, well, perhaps I will go back to New York, Philadelphia, or Chicago, from where I had come from. But there was a young lady there who talked me into marrying her, and I stayed in Chattanooga in the great state of Tennessee the rest of the way. Let me thank everyone here, the Department of Energy, and our 17 wonderful national labs. If there is something that is near and dear to my heart, it's our national labs. whether it was President Obama or President Trump, they both realized and recognized just what a wonderful treasure these 17 national labs are. As Bill Foster did say, I do have an affinity for all things Oak Ridge. As a matter of fact, last Thursday and Friday, I had Secretary Wright with me in Oak Ridge. He visited Y12, our NNSA facility, took a look at the uranium processing facility that we're building. Something that's near and dear to my heart is legacy cleanup. We do that at Oak Ridge, and I do that all over the country. I'm actually the nuclear cleanup caucus chair. Doesn't sound too glamorous, but it's actually one of the largest caucuses in Congress, even a little bit larger than the National Labs Caucus. So we have to get our numbers up in the National Labs Caucus. So if you know a Republican or Democrat who loves our national labs almost as much as me, ask them to please join. Your members should be a member. It's free and it's very informative. My day job is chairman of the Energy and Water Subcommittee of Appropriations. I'm what we call a cardinal. There are 12 of them, meaning a senior appropriator on a subcommittee. I chair Energy and Water. I fund the Department of Energy. And now through the Obama, Trump, Biden, and now Trump administrations, I have worked fervently to not only fund our national labs, but to support things. The SLAM event. Is that Laura back there? Hi, that's my majority clerk. Let's give her a round of applause. She's the one that gets it done. How about that? I didn't know you were coming. I thought you were tired of me. You've seen me all day. We're working on budgets and stuff like that. See, I get to come up here and do all the cool stuff, and she does all the hard work. But I wanted to say this. Our SLAM students were incredible. I had an opportunity to sit and meet and talk with them yesterday from all of our national labs, and their projects are incredible. Seriously, you cannot help but be optimistic as you look towards the future when you sit and talk to our SLAM students. They're all incredible. I know there's a competition and someone will have to win, but really nobody loses. Our great nation wins when you see that those great young minds in that room. And as I went around, and each and every one of them told me their projects. So it was really, truly inspirational. Let me close by saying this. Thank you for the SLAM competition. Thank you for coming to Washington and doing this. Keep working to support our national labs. I will continue to do the same, but the future is bright in America because of our great national labs and because of competitions like this. Let's cherish each and every one of our competitors and what they're going to do, because they and you are going to continue to do truly great things for our country. With that, I'm going to say thank you. I wish you the best. Have you heard from Ben Ray Luján yet? No, Senator Luján, I hope he comes by. He's here. He's here. Am I going to get to introduce you? Come on out. The senator from New Mexico. Come on out, Ben Ray. Good to see you. I was counting on somebody to say something nice about me. I didn't know Foster was going to. I make Foster eat at the Republican Club, so that's tough on him. I don't do that to Ben Ray, but Ben Ray is the senator from New Mexico, another great site. My friend from the House, he's now in the Senate. He's acceded to that great place. But I'm going to tell you one quick story about how we can work together. When the Democrats took over the House, it was a sad day for me. It wasn't a sad day for him. It was a sad day for me, right? I'd gone into the minority, and that means with the caucuses, instead of being the chair, you become the co-chair. Ben Ray got a hold of me on the House floor, literally, and said, I want you to continue to chair some of these critically important DOE caucuses. Why? Because he trusted me with that, and that says a lot about him, and that says a lot about our great nation. So, Ben Ray, I will never forget your kindness in that regard and your advocacy. You represent a great state with a lot of wonderful DOE holdings. Your labs are great. WIP is great. We're going to work on some cleanup together. And you look great, by the way. I don't see as much as I used to. Without further ado, my friend Ben Ray Luján.
All right. Well, since we're taking turns to introduce one another,
That's a longer introduction than what I had prepared, but if you still like me to say a few words about you, I'll be happy to.
Nine things, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, in case you did not get it yet, Senator Ben Ray Luján, New Mexico, has represented New Mexico in the US Senate since 2021. And before that, as you heard as well, he represented New Mexico's 3rd district in the House, and he was Assistant Speaker in the 116th Congress. With a background as chairman of New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, he has an extensive experience in energy policy. Representing, again, 2 DOE national labs, Los Alamos and Sandia, he has been a consistent champion for science and technology research throughout his time in Congress. Senator.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to have to go on the road together. That was all right. Thank you very much. I don't know if Chuck is still back there. I was getting a little worried because I was here when Chairman Fleischman was speaking and all those kind words about Bill Foster. And I thought, boy, oh boy, Chuck used to say those things about me. So Chuck, I just want to say thank you. You know, this is an individual that is of an immense character. Chuck listens, as you know. He cares, and he fights for what he believes in. And it's always an honor to work with him in this capacity, especially when it comes to our national labs and these resources across America, ensuring the missions continue, that the expanded research is supported, and those magical programs that are all acronymed like LDRD never go away. So to each and every one of you, I want to say congratulations to our judges who are here. Thank you for accepting your new responsibilities at a time that the Department of Energy will continue to shine, continue to thrive with its importance, not just domestically, but internationally. And so I truly just want to say congratulations to each and every one of you. I look forward to learning from you and supporting you. Because if we support our national laboratories in America, we're going to support economic growth. We're going to spur research and technology. We're still going to stay aligned with other parts of the world who our national labs are the envy of. And they talk about it all the time. That's my plug for a good budget. So I certainly hope that we can continue to do this together. But I congratulate each and every one of you. I also want to recognize a few incredible leaders who I had the honor of getting to know in my office recently, and I'm looking for all the SLAM participants, some that are gathered together, some that are seated in different parts here today. But Olivia, who you will be hearing here momentarily as well. I have one thing in common with her, but I'm envious of all of the other talents that she has. We both come from small communities. I come from the small town of Nambe. Those of you that have been to northern New Mexico and you traveled north from Santa Fe on your way to Los Alamos National Laboratory, if any of you decided to take a detour and take the high road to Taos to go and explore our mesas and our landscapes, you drove right by my home. I come from the mountain desert, but I live in a community that is one of those green arteries, if you will, where once the water touches soil, it's incredible what happens. We love our night skies. There's a canopy of stars that awaits for you. I'm trying to get you all to move there. There's a canopy of stars that waits for you out that way. You're going to get a different sunrise and sunset, food that will tantalize you. And it's one of those beautiful places that you can actually go and just reconnect with yourself, take a breath, and recharge. A few things that we forget about. The reason I say that is some of you know I survived a stroke 3 years ago. I completely healed. I'm very fortunate and blessed that way. But I'm reminded with the busy responsibilities that we have, and my stress levels are nowhere near yours. Take a moment, catch your breath, and make time for what really matters. Those interpersonal dynamics. I often remind people, and I share this with the students, the scientists and physicists and engineers that I spoke to in my office. The course that prepared me most for my responsibilities in the United States Senate was a little something called interpersonal communication dynamics. Like the word you just heard from Chuck, it's incredible what can happen when you maintain these personal relationships with one another. You can get through tough times. Regardless of who the President of the United States is, there are always challenges. Congress has failed in our responsibility to be able to keep the discourse. There's always going to be theater, there's always going to be elections and whatnot. But I remember hearing stories of the days where people would argue with one another on the floor of the Senate or the House or in a committee, but then they would get together for a meal. They would joke about who got who a little bit better, but then they would solve the problem. We need the expertise and the brain trust in this room to help get us back into that place. One of the folks that's been a part of my life that helps me with that, he doesn't know I'm going to do this, but Aaron Trujillo, who used to be part of my team, he works with a few of the national laboratories right now and providing guidance to them. He's someone that I trust, but has always kept me grounded. Those relationships matter in America. The brilliance that I saw from the team that came to my office, including Michael, who's with Sandia National Laboratories, Sophia's with Los Alamos National Laboratory from Cuba. I, like Chuck, also believe that the future is bright. But it's bright in these circles because of what attracts the brightest and best to our national laboratories. These investments, the fastest computers, emerging technologies, these discoveries, commercial application, as well as national security application. And the one ask that I have for all of you here in this room is to unleash the entrepreneurial programs at each of the national laboratories. I appreciate what I see on paper. It's more encouraging for those of you that actually have successful application and you know who you are. I've not figured out why it's not been tied to the contracts yet, and I know I just stepped in it. But I want to encourage this. I don't believe we'll lose scientific innovation and talent. They can already go anywhere in the world. But they chose to come and join the Department of Energy and National Laboratories because of the research that they get to conduct and engage in. Allow them to unleash the entrepreneurial side. They're going to come back. They're going to go do it again. Let's help everyone be more successful. I did not follow my remarks much. I apologize for that. But this is the kind of room that I'm inspired by. The work that you do day in and day out, and these young scientists, physicists, engineers, the work that they do with SLAM, continuing this year after year. They help remind me of the pitch that I need to have when I see a secretary in an elevator or grabbing a coffee or walking on the street, and we need to engage about what's important to home. I love New Mexico. I respect Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratories, and the rest of you too. But the work that we have yet to do is incredible. Again, I congratulate each of the judges, the work that you are doing day in, day out, what you've committed your careers to as well. Thank you. Thank you for not stopping, but for choosing to unleash the greatest and the best that we've got in America, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Senator Luján. And now back to our regular programming. Members of the jury, please, in your evaluation, do not forget poor Nathan, who has been separated from the rest of his category by the interruption right there. For some reason, researchers seem to be fond of cats. You have heard of Schrödinger's cat in quantum mechanics. There is a cat called Chester who co-authored an influential paper in Physical Review Letters. I am not making this up. And our next speaker is a cat person. Always has been, in other words. For her case, it is a steady-state solution to her life's equation. Ladies and gentlemen, from Argonne National Laboratory, Dr. Bethany Dean Kirsten.
You know that box of clothes that you've been meaning to donate that's still sitting in your closet or in the back of your car, taking up space and missing its opportunity to be reused and make a significant impact on someone else's life? That box of clothes in your space is like the used nuclear fuel in our country. Used nuclear fuel is a form of nuclear waste. And when I say nuclear waste, you may have a certain image pop into your head. But did you know used nuclear fuel takes the structurally sound form of long metal tubes with small pellets inside of them that contain uranium and some byproducts. Now, these byproducts are very radioactive for thousands of years. However, we can actually recycle over 95% of used nuclear fuel to make new fuel again. Since the 1950s, the United States has been generating used nuclear fuel. And although that's over decades of time, that amount of waste would fit comfortably inside one football stadium. And with recycling, we could decrease that amount to one Olympic-sized swimming pool. In addition to reducing the physical footprint of used nuclear fuel, recycling also drastically decreases the radioactivity. With recycling, we can decrease the amount of time the waste is radioactive from 300,000 years to just a few hundred years. Now, recycling used nuclear fuel is not a new concept, and Argonne National Lab has been the leading research institution in doing so with molten salt electrochemical separations. Molten salts are like the table salt you have at home, and they're melted at very high temperatures where they behave as a liquid. And they're extremely conductive, making them perfect for electrochemical separations. And electrochemical separations use the same reactions and concepts that we use to charge a battery, like the one in your phone. To charge a battery, current, or the movement of electrons, moves lithium ions from an anode to a cathode and back again. To recycle used nuclear fuel, we dissolve that fuel into molten salt, and current moves the recyclable elements from an anode to a cathode, where they're collected as metals to be made into new fuel again. My research is in implementing sensor technologies. These technologies will do a few things. It'll be able to monitor the extent of reactions in real time, as well as monitor the concentration of radioactive species in real time. By doing so, we will be improving process efficiency, decreasing operational costs, and improving the national security around these operations. Recycling used nuclear fuel unlocks the potential to provide millions of Americans electricity for generations to come, and will provide 100 times more energy.
Thank you, Bethany. Aren't we all in favor of recycling, from used clothes all the way to spent nuclear fuel? You know, in their private lives, researchers can have these unusual fascinations that others simply cannot fathom. Much to her husband's dismay, our next speaker is a huge fan of bugs. Her current favorite is New Mexico's state insect, namely the tarantula hawk wasp, which will paralyze a tarantula, bury it alive with its eggs so that the hatching larva can feed on the live tarantula, leaving the vital organs for last. Ew. Does that remind you perhaps of a Hollywood franchise or something? All right. In her research, though, she is after another type of bug. Ladies and gentlemen, from Los Alamos National Laboratory, Dr. Olivia Pimentel.
Have you stopped to consider the next pandemic? It's not something any of us want to imagine. But here's the truth. It's coming. And guess what? We're not prepared. This time, we're going to be facing something smarter. We're talking about a villain, a pathogen that adapts quicker than we can create vaccines. Take the plague, for example, or the Black Death, Yersinia pestis. It wiped out a third of Europe in the 14th century just like that. And even though we know who the culprit is, that pathogen still exists today. And next time, what if we can't stop it? Because this pathogen won't just stop at being sneaky. It will continue to change, continue to mutate. Every time we reach a breakthrough and create a vaccine, it changes, leaving us right back at square one. Remember 2020? We were caught off guard and left scrambling for solutions. Okay, I know what you're thinking, so how do we stop it? Traditionally, we combat these villains by targeting their surface proteins, what we can see. But here's the thing, these proteins are designed to mutate. It's like trying to hit a moving target. So what if we stop chasing and instead go after the part of the bacteria that doesn't change? What if we target its core, the part of the bacteria that stays the same no matter how much it evolves? That's where my hero comes in. It's called the nanodisk. And here's the cool part. A nanodisk is a tiny bundle of lipids, the structural molecules of bacteria, held together by a protein belt. And these lipids are the core of the bacteria. They're essential to its survival, so they don't change. And because they don't change, they are the perfect target for us. What I do is I take the lipids from the bacteria and I package them into these nanodiscs. Now, this is a huge challenge because lipids do not like to be mixed up and put into small spaces. But I've done it, and boom, we've got something to teach your body to remember the pathogen. And when your body remembers the pathogen, you can fight it faster, more efficiently, and most importantly, forever. So imagine this. We're talking about Yersinia pestis, the very bacteria that caused the Black Death. With nanodiscs, we can teach your body to remember it. And if it changes, you'll still be protected because your body remembers the part that doesn't change. So what's next? What other super villainous pathogen can we package into a nanodisc and send packing? The world's wide open, and the fight against bacterial threats just got a whole lot smarter. Let's take a macro problem and make it nano.
Thank you, Olivia. Whereas the supervillains are created by nature, the superheroes fighting them are created by researchers. It sure sounds cool to be working at a national lab of the DOE, and it must be extra cool to be a colleague of our next speaker at Berkeley Lab because she is an avid baker. You know, pastries, decorated cakes, and the like. Her target for this year is 100 new bakes. And who gets to benefit from the outcome of her experiments? Yes, mostly her colleagues. How's that for a perk, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, Dr. Yumari Vasquez.
Has anyone here ever gone viral? Maybe it was a funny post, a catchy trend, or a dance craze you could not resist. But what if I told you about something that hasn't hit your social media feeds yet, even though it's been going viral for millions of years? Nature's own giants that are found everywhere, from ocean depths to your backyard. Let's talk about giant viruses. Giant viruses are much larger than the typical tiny troublemakers, like the flu virus. And while the ones I'm studying don't infect humans, they could be game changers for national security, from safeguarding critical water infrastructure to defending against emerging biological threats. Already, these giants act as nature's defense system, targeting and eliminating organisms that pose risks to our infrastructure and health. For example, you may be familiar with harmful algal blooms, which can poison our drinking water supplies and cost our nation millions in damages. Giant viruses infect the algae responsible for these blooms, stopping them before they grow out of control. It's not just algae. They can infect and eliminate brain-eating amoeba in our water systems. Sounds like the kind of viral sensation that should be taking over your social media feeds, right? Yet, for many of you here, this is probably the first time you've ever heard of them. That's because giant viruses were only discovered 20 years ago. Thanks to advancements in metagenomics, the process of sequencing DNA from the environment, our team at Berkeley Lab is uncovering all the secrets of these fascinating viruses. My goal is to identify new genes in giant viruses so we can better understand how they're so effective at eliminating these threats to our water safety. Using metagenomics and computational tools, I'm analyzing thousands of viral genomes. And it's working. I'm not finding a few new genes. I'm talking hundreds of genes never seen before. Each one a potential key to developing targeted natural defenses for our water infrastructure and strengthen our national biosecurity. I'm on a mission to make giant viruses go viral beyond the lab. That's where you all come in. Help me spread the word out about these incredible giants, because they can lead us to the next big scientific breakthrough, one that saves our nation millions while protecting our essential resources too. And for that, who wouldn't want to go viral?
Thank you, Yumari. Now, what we all expect of you is a giant cake. That would surely go viral, right? Well, researchers at National Labs, including our next set of 4 finalists, pursue technological solutions that provide abundant, affordable, reliable sources of energy and that protect energy infrastructures. Once again, a word of encouragement.
I'm Congressman Eric Swalwell, representing California's 14th Congressional District, home to Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And I want to give a big shout out to Lawrence Livermore's own Dr. Nicholas Cross. He will be participating in the upcoming National Lab Research Slam. Dr. Cross, I know you're going to represent us well. You're going to bring brain power, innovation, and a belief that anything is possible. So good luck as you compete, and we look forward to hearing how it goes.
Hi, this is Congressman Mike Simpson, and I'm proud to represent Idaho's 2nd Congressional District, home to the Idaho National Laboratory. I want to wish the best of luck to INL's own Dr. Eugene Ingman. Idaho is proud of you and cheering you on.
Hello, this is Congressman Dan Newhouse, and I'm proud to represent Washington's 4th District, home to the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. For this year's PNNL Slam, I'll be rooting for Dr. Krista Kulesa and her research on reversible energy storage. Good luck, Dr. Kulesa, and thank you for representing the incredible work of PNNL.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, and I represent New Jersey's 12th District, a district full of talented scientists. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Yufan Xu from Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory on his selection as the National Lab Research Slam finalist and wish him the
There is something to be said for experimental work. There are things you just don't know until you try, right? In college, our next speaker had understandably other priorities than to get a haircut, and that is how he found out that he has, in fact, curly hair. And that is possibly what it took as well for him to find love. Because his wife has never known him with short, straight hair, and she probably never will, because she likes it like that. We hope you do too. From Lawrence Livermore National Lab, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nicholas Cross.
The world is becoming electrified which means that batteries are everywhere. They've been in your phones and laptops for some time now. Many new cars are powered by them, and soon they may even be powering airplanes. But batteries have this little problem. They are difficult, if not impossible, to take apart, diagnose and repair any issues, and put back together again. Think about it. If you have a bad battery, no one says, oh yeah, let's take a look inside. They say, toss it in the trash and just get a new one. So as scientists, we need to be able to predict when batteries will fail and understand the mechanisms that cause that failure. In lithium metal batteries, one form of failure is the formation of what are called dendrites. So dendrites are these little tendrils that reach out from the electrode, scavenging for lithium. But if they reach out too far, they will touch the opposite electrode and cause the battery to short circuit and maybe even catch fire. And our ability to predict when dendrites will form doesn't align well with the experimental data on when they actually do. So my job is to build numerical simulations to improve our ability to predict dendrite formation. And I have found that the key is in the solid electrolyte interphase, or SEI, which is this nanometer thin film, the size of just a few hundred atoms, that covers the battery electrode and slowly grows as the battery is used. And the SEI is dense, which means that lithium has a really hard time diffusing through it to get to the electrode surface. And this slow transport can cause dendrites. So I've found that if we include a growing SEI into our simulations, they can be significantly more accurate. But how we do so is important. There are ways that we can include it such that the model agrees well with the experimental data, but completely contradicts the published literature on how we have seen the SEI grow. So I'm working with my computational and experimental colleagues at Livermore and our university collaborators to build a model that both agrees well with the experimental data and aligns with how we have seen the SEI change over time. As a result, we are learning how to better engineer materials and better operate our batteries to control solid electrolyte interphase growth and prevent dendrites as a form of critical failure in the next generation of batteries. This will enable your electric planes, trains, and automobiles to go farther and charge faster, and fewer batteries will be thrown in the trash.
Thank you, Nicholas. I had a question, actually. If a dendrite grows long enough, does it also get curly? I'll ask him later and see the answer. As you gathered by now, I simply love researchers. I love them for what they do, and I love them for why they do it. Our next speaker drives automatic cars with his left foot. Why on earth, you ask? Something wrong with his right foot? Nope. He decided to learn to drive with his left foot in order to develop the right side of his brain. Isn't that brilliant? There's just so much that you can actually learn from your feet. Ladies and gentlemen, from Idaho National Laboratory, Dr. Eugene Engman.
Come with me on a journey of hope. Did you know that your feet can give you early warning signals about serious health crises you may have in the future, like diabetes way before it happens? Why are symptoms important? Take, for example, my friend who suffers from serious health crisis. Because doctors understand her symptoms, they are able to administer medication to help elongate her life. Do batteries behave the same way? When you plug in your phone and it feels hot to the touch, don't you instinctively take it out? Because if you don't, things could go boom, boom. Isn't that a battery trying to tell you something? Conventionally, methods used to detect battery failure take hours and sometimes days. If we can decrease this by just 10%, it will save the taxpayer millions of dollars with a capital M. At Idaho National Lab, my research uses electrochemical symptoms to help detect battery failure way before it happens, similar to a doctor using symptoms to help diagnose a disease. How do I do this? Well, batteries have these parameters, one of which is called the Coulombic efficiency, a comparison between the charge and the discharge cycle, and another parameter which is the rest voltage. For a healthy cell, these parameters are stable, and so I create cells which are meant to fail, and know that any deviation from failure is as a result of intentional changes I have made within these cells. This allows me to model multiple failure mechanisms and eventually feed them into screening facilities to help with efficient battery failure detection. Why is this even important to you? 3 reasons. Well, everyone loves to know that their taxes are being used efficiently. Using electrochemical symptoms does not just cut down time, it directly translates into efficient use of taxes, meaning your taxes can be spread out for more engaging and beneficial research. 2, using electrochemical symptoms saves time. Don't you know that during a power outage, if you use electrochemical symptoms, using electrochemical symptoms saves time. During a power outage, not only isn't it peace of mind that when the power goes out, your battery device turns on, yes. That is what using electrochemical symptoms does. It gives us peace of mind. It also allows us to save time. And so, my friends, let us remember that our feet may be able to tell us about diabetes. Equally important is our energy storage device and security. Not only does my research give you peace of mind, it allows us and also gives the Department of Energy a tool to save our energy security.
Thank you, Eugene. Did he say 5 cents per kilowatt hour? As the happy driver of an electric car, I can't wait for that one. Our next speaker got both her bachelor's and master's degree in classics. That's Latin and ancient Greek, folks, translating Euripidean tragedy and Roman Stoic philosophy. That did not answer all of her questions about the universe, so she went on to get a PhD in chemistry. I bet you she gets the periodic table so much better than the rest of us. For example, gold has got the symbol Au because gold in Latin is aurum. And hydrogen gets its name from Greek roots, meaning that from which water, hydro, is born. Gen, when you burn hydrogen, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, Dr. Krista Kulesa.
Have you ever heard an orchestra warming up? So many sounds all at once. Then the conductor waves the baton and everything converges into a beautiful symphony. Chemistry is just like a symphony orchestra. It's balanced, but complex, especially once you add electricity to reactions. But that's exactly what we need if we want to tackle some of our most complicated energy challenges today. That harmony of electricity and chemistry, or electrochemistry. At Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, we're innovating new symphonies of synthesis, catalysis, and separations. Our chemical melodies are defined by the energy and movement of a very tiny particle, the electron. If electrons are the music notes, then catalysts are the orchestras, and every electrochemist, including myself, is constantly working towards the perfect blend. A typical symphony requires us to be both composers and conductors, so we start by writing our reaction music. Like sounds, electrons are everywhere. They're in batteries, computers, even winter static. We harness their energy into a chemical cadence to convert abundant feedstocks into powerful fuels, or separate valuable elements for market commodities. Next, we audition our Catalyst orchestra. Just like the right role for the right instrument, catalysts need the right energies and compositions to make and break the right bonds. One Catalyst orchestra I've developed is a series of layered conductive polymers with metal-containing pores. Amazingly, different metals from different pores actually harmonize with one another through electron transfer. I love it. To finish things off, we rehearse the ensemble or test electrochemical reactions and optimize for a show-stopping performance. Every symphony is the beautiful product of a tremendous effort with lots of room for creativity. I've even been working on my own signature style, one where I use high-throughput methods to screen multiple reactions at once. Essentially, I become 100 conductors going through 100 rehearsals at the same time. Then, using artificial intelligence, I become 100 composers of 100 different songs. My data train an algorithm, and through this harmony of high throughput and AI, I can meet my sponsors' needs in a fraction of the time and cost. So I invite you again to imagine a concert, but this time the crescendo of high throughput and AI, of electricity and chemistry, of discovery and ingenuity, as I change the melody of energy science, one electron note at a time.
Thank you, Krista. Oh, you know what? I just got the pun about conducting in electrochemistry. Well, better late than never, huh? All right. As you probably know, many researchers are skilled musicians. Albert Einstein played the violin, Richard Feynman played drums, and back in college, our next speaker played the guitar and sang for a metal band. And metal is also what his current research is about. Oh, for those of you who do not know the Hollywood classics, Terminator 2 here is not the T-800 model that became governor of California, okay? It's the other one, as you will hear in just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, from Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory, Dr. Xu Yufan.
Picture T-1000 from the movie Terminator 2. It's a shape-shifting, self-repairing, liquid metal assassin robot. Terrifying, right? What if I tell you that this bad person have a secret and has a key to unlock the ultimate energy source? Fusion power. Fusion is how our sun operates. And by smashing hydrogen atoms together at incredibly high speed and release tremendous amount of energy. If we can contain that on Earth, we can provide limitless, carbon-free, 24/7 electricity with no long-lasting nuclear waste. However, there's one catch. On the sun, we have huge gravity to contain the reaction within, but on Earth, we don't. We have to build a very sophisticated magnetic cage and hit the hydrogen fuse 10 times hotter than the core of the sun so the reaction can start, which creates an issue. Under extreme heating, the inside wall of the fusion device will melt, deform, and eventually poison the reaction. And it will waste millions of dollars to replace and repair every time this happened. Would it be nice if the wall can self-repair? Enters liquid metal. The molten lithium is the candidate of the war materials for 3 reasons. Number 1, just like T1000, it flows and covers the gap and repairs itself. Number 2, it's an excellent heat remover. Liquid metal has much higher thermal conductivity, so it moves the heat 100 times faster than water. And number 3, the liquid lithium can bind with hydrogen fuels and keep the bad particles outside the reaction. This isn't just an idea. At Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, I'm working on a series of liquid metal tests to make sure that liquid metal wool is compatible with the fusion device and make sure the flow is stable and safe to operate. If we succeed, the liquid metal technology will leap through the science fiction world to reality. So next time, if you watch Terminator 2, just remember, the liquid metal that once haunted the silver screen might one day light our home and protect our energy security. Because the fusion is nothing to be afraid of. It's something we flow into.
Thank you, Yifan. Now, that is what you call a killer project, right? Many researchers at the DOE National Labs, including our next 6 speakers, harness world-class expertise, facilities, and research programs to achieve fundamental science breakthroughs. Once again, we will be right back after these important messages.
Hey everybody, this is Sam Liccardo, member of Congress, proudly representing SLAC in the 16th District here in California, and we are cheering on Dr. Astrid Anker right here from the SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory. Go, Dr. Anker.
Hello, this is Joe Wilson, member of Congress from the 2nd District of South Carolina. I am grateful for the opportunity to represent the Savannah River National Laboratory, a critical contributor to the national security of the United States and an appreciated community partner to South Carolina and Georgia. Today, I'm especially grateful to recognize Dr. Colleen Hilla. As a researcher with the Savannah River National Laboratory, Colleen has been selected as the winner of the competition to represent the lab in the, quote, Best Speaker Award, contending against the other national lab nominees from around the country. As the only member of Congress to have ever worked at the Savannah River site myself, I know of the dedicated personnel. Congratulations, Colleen. We wish the best for you. Continued success.
Hello, I'm Jamie Morris, Chief Research Officer at Ames National Laboratory. Congratulations to Dr. Chow Chow Pan on his selection as a National Lab Research Slam finalist, and I wish him the best of luck on his presentation. His research on hot-rolled magnets represents Ames' commitment to delivering critical material solutions to the nation.
Hello, I'm Congressman Bobby Scott, proudly representing Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, wishing the best of luck this evening to Dr. Pia Jones-Petrak from Jefferson National Accelerator Facility.
Good evening, everyone. I am Joanne Hewitt, Director of Brookhaven National Laboratory, located on Long Island in New York. Please welcome nuclear physicist Dr. Ejiro Umaka from the S-Phoenix collaboration. She won our local SLAM competition and is representing Brookhaven today at this National Lab Research Slam. To Ejiro and all today's presenters, congratulations, and thank you for the vital work you do on the Department of Energy's behalf. You are the nation's future in science and technology. Now, Ejiro, break a leg, but safely, please.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Delia Catalina Ramirez, and I get to represent the diverse Illinois 3rd Congressional District that includes Fermilab. So I'd like to specially congratulate today Dr. Carolina Reselo from Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory on her selection as a National Lab Research SLAM finalist. SLAM celebrates breakthrough science through compelling storytelling making research accessible for the rest of us. Carolina, we wish you luck on your 3-minute slam. Thank you for representing our community with such pride, and best of luck.
As a 12-year-old, our next speaker wanted to join a circus. She was a juggler, a contortionist, a unicyclist, and she still loves to do that. Now, any resemblance between a circus and an actual national lab, dead or alive, would be purely coincidental, but you've got to admit that's a set of skills that is still useful today. For example, for the Nexo experiment, she juggles many projects, her talk today being about just one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, from SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory, Dr. Astrid Anker.
Have you ever tried listening to a quiet conversation at a crowded party, but no matter how hard you try, the surrounding noise makes it almost impossible to catch the details? Particle physicists had the same challenge, separating a signal from different kinds of noise to find answers to some of the biggest open questions in physics, such as, why does our universe have more matter than antimatter? Nexo is an international collaboration that's trying to answer this important question by measuring a theorized rare decay process called neutrinoless double beta decay, which I don't expect anyone here to remember, but the challenge is making sure when this rare needle in a haystack event occurs, we can measure it. Unfortunately, that haystack is radioactive. Everything around us, including the materials used to build our experiment, contain tiny amounts of radioactivity. In particular, the radioactive element radon can hinder our ability to see this rare signal. And that's why everything used to build our detector must be screened for radon. At the SLAC National Accelerator Lab, we have some of the most sensitive radon counters in the world. My research is focused on using these counters to measure samples. How this process works is you enclose a sample in a chamber long enough that it emits radon, and then measure the gas in that chamber with very sensitive and specialized equipment to determine how much radon was emitted. Our current instruments are sensitive enough to measure as low as 1 radon atom per day. Now, as a frame of reference, there are over 10,000 radon atoms in a single breath of air. We think we can do better, though, so I'm also developing these counters to be more sensitive. Classifying the amount of radon in materials doesn't just help our experiment. It also guides future experiments on the best low radon emitting materials. We share our measurements in a materials database, which ensures that time is saved and material not wasted when building the next generation of detectors. Without work to reduce radon, our detector would, in a sense, be stuck in that noisy party, unable to hear the cool new physics trying to be heard, but by quieting that noise, we can finally listen.
Thank you, Astrid. Rest assured, we have quietly listened. Our next speaker likes to shake things up by doing whitewater rafting. And not just a bit, okay? She and her husband have already gone down over 20 whitewaters of classes 4 and 5 on a scale of 1 to 6, 6 carrying a dramatically increased likelihood of death. Aren't we glad they stopped at 5? No whitewaters worthy of her skills on the Savannah River, unfortunately, but in her research, she certainly still navigates rapids. Ladies and gentlemen from Savannah River National Laboratory, Dr. Colleen Hiller.
Have you ever wanted to spend less money on a plane ticket? Do you know someone with an implanted medical device? How many of you checked your cell phone today? Something all these things have in common is the material tantalum. And tantalum is extraordinary. You can get it really, really hot and it won't melt. It's great in electronics. But there's some things we don't love so much about tantalum. It's pretty soft compared to similar metals, and it's difficult to manufacture into parts. So we'd like to take tantalum and add things to it to make it stronger and easier to work with. Things I too aspire towards. But historically, the process for creating a new material is really, really slow. Researchers have taken a metal and they add an element to it, and they add a little more, and they add a little more, and they see how the properties change. Did it get stronger, more magnetic, lighter weight? But if you remember the periodic table, there's 119 base elements that you can add. To make matters worse, some great metals like stainless steel, which you might have in your kitchen or your utensils or your appliances, or Inconel 718, which is heavily used in the aerospace industry, can have up to 14 different elements in them. If you think about all the ways that you could take 14 random elements out of 119 and all the different combinations you could make, and you took just 1 second to think about each one of those, it would take you more than 10 to the power of 21 years. That's one with 21 zeros. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm going to live quite that long. So not only is this process slow, to truly understand all the materials we could possibly create, it's been impossible. And in the case of tantalum, it's also very expensive. On average, tantalum is 100 times more expensive than common structural materials like stainless steel. Through a traditional process, in order to have enough of a new material to test, you're talking about thousands of dollars worth of tantalum. So we really don't want to mess that up. So what researchers have done is make small incremental improvements that are likely to work, rather than create something brand new, which could be much better, but also could not work at all. What I have done to address this is create a framework where we can use machine learning to rapidly screen hundreds or thousands of these materials per second. This allows us to get rid of all those materials that were truly never going to work. I then use a metal 3D printing process that allows us to print little marble-sized coupons of different combinations. And we can print hundreds of these at once to rapidly and cost-effectively test them. My colleagues and I at Savannah River National Lab can now use this framework to create the next generation of tantalum alloys, where we'll start to see these larger leaps in improvement that we're aiming for. These new materials can then be used to make your phone battery last longer, to make medical implants safer, and if we can make flying more efficient, maybe one day we'll see a drop in those flight prices.
Thank you, Colleen. A drop in flight prices is, dare I say, tantalizing, but hey, let's be optimistic. Another reason why I love researchers is that they dare to step out of their comfort zone. For example, what do you do if you are afraid of heights? Well, you do rock climbing, of course, like our next speaker. He hated exercise and failed gym class as a kid, and now he can lift twice his body weight. He takes cold showers in the summer. So what does he do in the winter? Ice baths, of course. My kind of person. Ladies and gentlemen from Ames National Laboratory, Dr. Pan Chow Chow.
Imagine you are buying something important, a new phone or maybe a car. You want it to be of high quality, affordable, and delivered fast. But here's the catch. You can only choose 2 of those 3. So how do you make your decision? I know it's not easy. Just like in purchasing goods, when it comes to magnet production, it has been a great challenge to get strength, cost effectiveness, and speed all together. Traditionally, the strongest magnet contains a rare and expensive element called dysprosium. Just 2% of added dysprosium accounts for 10% of the total material cost. To make things worse, this element is desperately lean in the US and is distributed in only few countries in the world, creating a high supply risk. The solid magnets are made by baking the magnetic powders at high temperatures for as long as 1 day, so it's a slow process. But what if I told you we can achieve all three at once in magnet production? Innovation transforms the impossible into the achievable. At Ames Lab, I developed a novel hot roll method to make the strongest magnet with low cost and high speed. The key steps involve sealing magnetic powders in a long metal tube in vacuum to prevent oxidation, and then subjecting the tube to repeated heating and rolling, a process that squeezes the material through two rotating cylinders. The unique pressure-assisted heating method gives the magnet a preferred microscopic structure. Our results show that the dysprosium-free hot-rolled magnets perform equivalently to the traditional ones containing 6% dysprosium. The heating and the rolling can be conducted by alternatively positioning the inline heaters and the rollers in a serial manner. The novel hot roll method produces the final magnets by simply sending the powder pack tube from one end of the production line and wait until it exits from the other end. And here's the best part. It takes only 1 minute, not 1 day. This innovation is not just another improvement. It is a revolution. For decades, people are forced to choose from strength, affordability, and speed, but not anymore. So next time when you think about magnets, remember, you don't have to settle. You can get it all with hot rolling.
Thank you, Chow Chow. So next time you people buy a cheap souvenir magnet so strong that you can hardly get it off your fridge, you will know who you can thank for that. Huh? Our previous speaker, remember, can lift twice his body weight. Our next speaker simply lifts her own body, but in the form of pull-ups. So not chin-ups, okay? That's for wimps. Pull-ups. Believe me, that's so much harder. Just thinking of it, I start aching in some muscle groups that I did not even know I had. Ladies and gentlemen, from Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility, Dr. Pia Jones-Petrak.
Do you know all the particles? Well, we don't. Even 50 years after having worked out a brilliant theory that's helped us uncover a lot of particles, there are still plenty that we do not understand. But understanding them is key to unraveling the full theory. And who's not to say that this fundamental research won't pave the way for more technologies like those presented here today that would have never been possible without the fundamental research that came first. So we need to know what particles are there. I'm sure you've all heard of atoms before. They're made up of electrons going around that center, and that center is made up of neutrons and protons. A proton is made up of 3 quarks that are connected by those squiggly lines, the gluons. They glued the quarks together. How? It's the strong force, the force that stops the proton from falling apart. And we know the theory of the strong force fairly well already, but still, for a long time, we did not think of looking for particles that look like this one. Why? Because it's weird, so we call it an exotic particle. What makes it so exotic? In place of that 3rd quark, there's now this gluon. And the funny thing is, even though we never expected these exotic particles to exist, they've been in the theory all along. This is where theoretical physicists like myself come in handy when we have access to big, powerful computers like the one at Jefferson Lab. I simulate the theory of the strong force as to find these exotic particles. But why on earth do we need those computers to be so powerful? Think back to your maths classes. If you want to multiply very large numbers, you're going to need a calculator. Or you can go to the trouble of doing the calculation with pen and paper. But that's just going to take you so much longer. With the much harder problem we're facing here, we actually need computers to try out lots and lots and lots of different numbers that might solve the complicated equations of our theory. And even getting the simulation ready to run is nothing like hitting a few buttons on a calculator. If we were to try and do that with pen and paper, we still wouldn't know anything. We still wouldn't even know exotic particles that we are researching now. So, what do we do once we finally found a solution? We compare it to the GluX experiment at Jefferson Lab. So, it's all well and good, me being a theoretical physicist, but if we cannot verify our predictions via experiments, they're useless. That being said, so are the experiments if they cannot be interpreted because there's no theory. This two-way exchange, so straightforward at Jefferson Lab, really is the decisive factor in answering the question, what particles are there?
Thank you, Pia. Some of us travel to exotic destinations, others look for exotic particles right here in the US. If your 15-year-old selves had had a time machine to see their future career paths, would they have been surprised? Well, one that would have been stuck in disbelief is the 15-year-old self of our next speaker, who was into English literature and poetry. She did not solve the mystery of how she ended up in physics, and loves it too, but she did figure out a time machine of sorts to peer back at our early universe. Ladies and gentlemen, from Brookhaven National Laboratory, Dr. Ejiro Umaka.
Have you ever wished you had a time machine? If you had one, what point in time would you go? Personally, I'd go to the early universe, about 1 millionth of a second after the Big Bang. At this time, our universe was filled with a hot soup of free quarks and gluons known as quark-gluon plasma. The particles that make up the soup are the tiniest building blocks of matter. They make up the protons of atoms, which makes up cells, and, you guessed it, makes us. So everything we see around us, including you and I, comes from particles that make up the soup. Amazingly, at Brookhaven National Laboratory, we can turn back the clock with a machine called the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider, or RHIC for short. RHIC collides nuclei at nearly the speed of light. The collisions are so energetic that they melt the protons within the nuclei, releasing free quarks and gluons in a quark soup, the soup of our early universe. To study this soup, I used sprays of high-energy particles called jets. These jets zip through the soup, revealing unique information about its properties. Incredibly, our experimental findings showed that particles within the soup act like they know about one another, like a school of fish collectively responding to a disturbance. This was a surprise, because we had expected free quarks and gluons to barely interact, like molecules in a gas, unconcerned about what their neighbors are doing. To confront our understanding of the fundamental interactions between quarks and gluons, we need to turn again to experiment and collect more data. Because resolving small distances, like the scale of quarks and gluons, requires that we shoot many more jets at the soup with sufficient spatial separation. To this end, I and a group of scientists constructed a detector at RHIC known as S-Phoenix. It's a state-of-the-art jet detector, 3 stories tall, and equipped with the latest technologies for capturing snapshots of the quark soup. It's recording several millions of jet probes, which will provide a finite scale view of the quark soup, allowing us to study its microscopic nature. Understanding the nature of matter at this tiny scale can lead to discoveries that revolutionize our world. The way we've exploited our understanding of the electron's behavior at the atomic scale to power today's technologies. So, when we go back in time and study the Big Bang's quark soup, we're opening a doorway to future technologies, and we're unlocking the secrets of the tiniest building blocks of matter that made us and the vast universe we call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ejiro. And now, back to the future. When you register for an account on a website, how often did you try to use your name as the username, only to find out that somebody else with the same name as yours had already taken it? Well, never for our next speaker, who might well have a unique name thanks to an unusual last name. Now, her initials are not so unusual, of course. At the University of Cambridge, her username was KW351. Can't have it all, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, from Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, Dr. Carolina Resilo.
At the inception of the universe, equal amounts of matter and antimatter were created. But if this remained true, we simply wouldn't be here. We know this due to the well-established fact that when matter comes into contact with antimatter, they destroy one another, leaving nothing tangible intact. Yet, here we are, and so what imbalanced process allowed for matter to claim dominion over antimatter in the early universe? We think that particles called neutrinos may hold the key to unlocking this mystery. See, neutrinos are really strange, coming in 3 distinct types and with the ability to shapeshift from one kind to another as they travel across vast distances. To determine whether neutrinos and the antimatter twins do in fact change their identities in unequal measure, Fermilab will host a future experiment with the world's most powerful neutrino beam called DUNE to see how these particles behave as they travel between Illinois and South Dakota. But there is a problem, which is that neutrinos are incredibly elusive. If you were to propel 1 billion neutrinos towards a block of lead that is a light year thick, a distance equivalent to traveling to the moon and back about 10 million times, only 1 or 2 would ever collide with an atomic nucleus living inside of this enormous trap. Now, imagine you are trying to track the total number of leaves falling from trees on a windy day by capturing them into a bucket. Even if you're incredibly fast, ultimately, many of them will never be caught. However, if you know how many leaves typically fall outside of your bucket, you can still accurately account for any that are missing. When neutrinos do collide, for example, inside of another Fermilab experiment called Microboon, the result is some very intricate images. My research involves analyzing these images to measure something that we call the neutrino cross-section, a quantity that tells us how often the neutrinos like to collide with or completely avoid the atomic nuclei inside of our detectors. So just how, given enough information, we can reverse engineer the total number of falling leaves, we can use the information about the neutrino cross-section to predict how many neutrinos or antineutrinos the DUNE experiment should see as they shapeshift on the 800-mile journey. Any hint of imbalance, and we are one step closer to understanding the cosmic asymmetry that has ultimately led us to be gathered in this room today, 13 billion years after the inception of the universe.
Thank you, Carolina. This past Sunday, DUNE Part 2 won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. So perhaps the Dune experiment can similarly win a prize for Best Neutrino Visualization, as we have just seen. Last but not least, National Lab researchers, including our remaining 3 finalists, highlight emerging scientific and technological solutions that promote environmental management and stewardship. These researchers, too, deserve a word of encouragement.
I'm Congressman Chuck Fleischman, proudly representing Tennessee's 3rd District, home to Oak Ridge National Laboratory. I have the privilege to chair the Energy and Water Appropriations Subcommittee, so of course I support all of the labs. But tonight I'll be cheering on Oak Ridge's own Anna Jang as she competes in the 2nd National Lab Research Slam. Good luck, Dr. Jang.
Hello, this is Riley Moore from West Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Wishing the best of luck to my constituent, Dr. Kristen Johnson-May from the National Energy Technology Laboratory in Morgantown, West Virginia. Kristen, best of luck to you.
Hey everyone, this is Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, and I am deeply proud to represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District, which is home to Sandia National Labs. And I'm so excited that we have a Dr. Michael LaVille who is competing in this year's National Lab Slam. So go get him. We're supporting you all the way.
Oops, too fast. Another reason why I love researchers is their altruism. I mean, don't tell me you embarked on a research career for the money, right? You love science and you want to share that passion. Outside of her research, our next speaker is an active volunteer. Over the years, she contributed to the Tennessee Science Bowl, Salvation Army, and disaster recovery efforts in Tennessee after Hurricane Helene. Ladies and gentlemen, from Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Dr. Anna Jang.
Did you know we spend 90% of our time indoors? But indoor air carries invisible germs, making us sick. While air filters help clean the air, traditional air filters only trap germs. They don't kill them. These germs survive, recirculate, and contaminate the air we breathe. How do we stop this invisible threat? By creating antimicrobial filters that not only trap, but kill germs. At Oak Ridge National Laboratory, my team is developing technologies to improve indoor air quality. My work transforms ordinary air filters into germ-killing powerhouses. With an advanced spray coating process, we apply a specially designed antimicrobial layer to the filters. This allows the filters to capture and kill microbes in one step. But too much coating clogs the filters, making air conditioners work harder and waste energy. Too little, and germs survive. Like Goldilocks, we need the just right amount. To achieve this, we use advanced material analysis tools, such as powerful electron microscopy, to study the antimicrobial coating from nanoscale to microscale. Through process optimization, we determine the optimal coating to eliminate germs and minimize energy consumption. The results? Our filters capture 99% of germs and kill 94%. This is just the beginning. Through collaboration with scientists in chemistry, bioscience, and building technology, we are working to eliminate harmful germs entirely while enhancing energy efficiency. The best part? These filters fit into existing air conditioning systems. Imagine hospitals, schools, airplanes, even your own home filled with cleaner, safer air. Like a silent guardian, these filters work behind the scenes to protect us, save energy, and improve public health. We spend 90% of our time indoors. Let's make sure the air we breathe is clean.
Thank you, Anna. Your talk was a breath of fresh air. Our second speaker today had no kids, but cats, remember? Fittingly, our penultimate speaker is her antimatter version, no cats, but kids. Well, one so far. I mean, you have to start somewhere. Now, don't go craning your neck to try and see him in the auditorium. I would not allow it. Even the best speaker in the world would be unable to compete for audience attention with a 16-month-old. Ladies and gentlemen, from National Energy Technology Laboratory, Dr. Kristen Johnson-May.
Have you ever rushed into the grocery store planning to get just a few items? You realize you need another ingredient or two, and before you know it, you're juggling an armful of groceries when a shopping cart would have been ideal. Scientists are much the same. As we study complex problems, we find ourselves drowning in data, much like our shopper struggling with an armful of groceries. We need something to help us move faster, to carry our mountain of information while boosting our efficiency. For us, that shopping cart is artificial intelligence. Over the next decade, U.S. electricity demand is expected to increase up to 10% due to the addition of data centers and American manufacturing. To meet these needs, energy technologies must be improved to provide more reliable, more affordable electricity. One of these vital technologies is gas turbines, which are used in power plants to generate electricity for the grid. Consider this: over 30% of U.S. electricity is generated by gas turbines. While they're already reliable, any improvement in efficiency would have a tremendous impact on total power output. To address this, my team at NETL is aiming to convert these gas turbines to use a completely different type of combustion. But there's one major challenge. This type of combustion is very difficult to study because these combustion waves are moving faster than the speed of sound at over 3,000 miles per hour. To study just 1 minute of operation, we need to capture over 3.5 million high-speed images. This would take a human an incredibly long time to examine, much less draw any valuable conclusions. And images are just one part of our big data problem. Fortunately, this is where AI shines. My work uses a type of artificial intelligence called machine learning to analyze these images at rapid speeds. Because my machine learning method can analyze images so much faster than humans, we can now draw valuable conclusions in real time. This speed allows us to better understand the overall combustion behavior and make design changes that will lead to future improvements. With this combustion technology, gas turbines could create more power using the same amount of fuel, meaning more affordable electricity for everyone, and of course, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the process. If we could achieve just a 1% gain in efficiency, our electricity supply would increase enough to power 20 times the number of houses in my home state of West Virginia. As you can imagine, faster results lead to faster innovation. AI is our shopping cart, carrying the weight of complex data as we sprint towards a more reliable and more affordable future.
Thank you, Kristen. I could so relate to the shopping cart analogy. I'm a shopping basket kind of guy myself, but yes, it always ends up overcrowded. Here's one last reason for today why I love researchers. They are the type of people who can do anything if they set their mind to it. Our next speaker had never been a runner until his 30th birthday, when his wife encouraged him to be more physically active. She told him to go run a marathon or something. Now, anyone else would have understood this to be a figure of speech. Not researchers, right? So he went from couch to marathon, which he went to run in Cambodia, just to make things more interesting, right? Ladies and gentlemen, from Sandia National Laboratories, Dr. Michael Lovell.
Ever tried sneaking spinach into a picky kid's smoothie? They don't even notice, but suddenly they're getting way more nutrients. That's kind of what we want to do with hydrogen in natural gas pipelines. Blending it in to extend the US energy supply without anyone having to change our entire energy infrastructure. So you may be wondering, is there a problem with natural gas alone? First off, it's a limited resource. The US could deplete its proved reserves in just 10 years. Second, it releases carbon into the atmosphere, accounting for almost as much CO2 emission as transportation in the US. Wait for it. Enter green hydrogen, a clean fuel made from splitting water. So guess what? It can be produced abundantly on US soil. You see, we may be able to blend green hydrogen with natural gas and use our vast network of existing gas lines to deliver it, cutting emissions and ensuring our energy supply lasts longer and remains in the US. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the challenge, right? Well, at the molecular level, hydrogen is very different from natural gas. So we need to be sure our gas lines can handle it reliably and safely. Researchers at Sandia have been instrumental in developing our current understanding of hydrogen combustion and interaction with materials. We know hydrogen embrittles metals, but its impact on plastics remains less understood. This is where my work comes in at Sandia National Labs. The plastic polyethylene, for example, makes up millions of miles of gas lines in the US. Yet some studies show hydrogen causes cracking, while others suggest it actually strengthens the plastic. There's a big knowledge gap there. To solve this, I study how hydrogen affects the microscopic structure of these polymers. Using advanced light scattering techniques, including lasers and X-rays, I examine the molecular vibrations and crystal structure of polymers exposed to hydrogen and blended gas environments. I can often be found cutting up pipes, putting them in hydrogen, and completing experiments that simply have never been done before. And good news, so far, results show hydrogen causes no permanent damage to polyethylene. That's a promising sign. And moving forward, my tests will help fill the gap in understanding hydrogen's impact on plastics and how it affects pipeline operation and longevity. Let's make sure our gas lines are safe, ever-flowing, and key to US energy resilience for generations to come. So, next time you turn on your stove or heater, imagine a future where the same pipelines quietly deliver cleaner energy, just like that hidden spinach in the smoothie.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, now that we understand the Greek roots, let's put a little hydrogen in our pipelines and in our lives. May I now invite the jury to retire in order to consider their verdicts. And as they exit the auditorium, how about we give all 5 judges a round of applause? The 17 young people that you heard today have worked hard on their research, of course, but also on their 3-minute talk. I made them go through many iterations of their structure and slide and through many rehearsals, but they are the ones who had the guts to expose themselves to the judgment of such a critical audience as yourselves. So could I please have all 17 finalists on the stage again for a final collective round of applause. I'm looking to see if our photographer got the shots that he wanted to have. If not, I'll give him a few more seconds. All right. Thank you, finalists. You may exit LIFO, last in, first out, from the door for which you came. Which we should hear from the judges shortly, at which point I will invite some of the finalists on stage again for the awards. In the meantime, let me give thanks where thanks are due. First of all, this event would not have been possible without our sponsors. So let me thank, as you see there, Ames, Battelle, Princeton University, University of California, University of Chicago, and both the Universities Research Association and the Southeastern University Research Association for sponsoring this event. The event would not have been possible either without the help, in fact, the hard work from so many staff scientists at all 17 national labs of the DOE. That's way too many for me to name right now. So let me just thank 4 individuals from 2 national labs out there in the Bay Area. From Berkeley Lab, Meg Rodriguez and Jonathan Nurse. And from Lawrence Livermore, Christine Zacco, and Stephanie Terza. Picture, please. And now, audience members, it's your moment. Please, please, please vote for the People's Choice Award by scanning this QR code or using this short link. You have about 10 minutes. Those of us in the auditorium, please stay with us as we go through a photo session in just a second, waiting for the judges. Those of us watching remotely, please stay tuned for the announcement of this year's winners. Ladies and gentlemen, the results are in. This will be my way of testing whether you have listened to how I have introduced the various finalists. In the category National Security, our winner is a bug lover. Olivia Pimentel from Los Alamos. Could I have Pat Fitch on stage to present the award? In the category Energy Security, our winner is from Cyberdyne Systems, our very own Terminator from Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory, Dr. Xu Yufan. If I could have Laura. In the category Scientific Discovery, our winner is KW351, also known as Caterina Resilo from Fermilab. Yankee and Bonnie. Yankee Kim and Bonnie Fleming to present the award. Stay with us. And in the category Environment, the winner is liable to hide spinach in your smoothie. From Sandia National Labs, Dr. Michael Lavelle. Christian and Sarah to present the award. Christian Maillot and Sarah Allendorf. There they are. Wait for you, colleague. Running up the stairs. And last but not least, the People's Choice Award is, once again, Dr. Olivia Pimentel. We continue. That concludes the event per se. We still have to bring a number of people on stage to take photographs, but that's going to be a little disorganized, as you have seen. So let me already, in the meantime, thank you all for attending this event today. See you soon for the next edition of the National Lab Research Slam.